Hello, today we are going to do 9.5 day 2, which is completing the square and solving quadratics. So, yesterday we learned that when solving quadratics, we have to have it in the form x squared plus bx equals c, which means for our warm-up here, we're going to subtract 32 to the other side, at which case we can now write a plus blank on both sides of our equation. Then, to figure out what goes in the blank, we're going to do b divided by 2, and we're going to square that. So in this case, it's 18 divided by 2. That gives us 9. And when we square that, we are actually adding 81 to both sides. On the left-hand side, this is now something factorable. It is always going to be x plus or minus whatever you got when you did b divided by 2. And that's quantity squared. And on the right-hand side, we're actually going to add those together to get a 49. At this point, now we can go ahead and solve using square roots. So we're going to square root both sides, and we get x plus 9 equals. Anytime we square root both sides of an equation, we're going to write plus or minus, and the square root of 49 is nice. It is 7. So we're going to solve for x by subtracting 9. We get negative 9 plus or minus 7. We always write it like that first. And then if it's a nice answer like this, where they're both integers, we can go ahead and add them together, negative 9 plus 7 and negative 9 minus 7, to figure out what our two solutions are. So we get negative 2 and negative 16 as our two solutions. So now what we're going to do is the same idea, except for we are going to throw a value in front of the x squared. So you'll notice here we have the 2 in front of the x squared. We cannot complete the square the exact same way when there's a number in front. So instead, we actually have to take and factor out your a value. The a value is always going to go in front. So we divide both of these by 2 and get x squared minus 2x, and then plus blank. Once we factor out the a value, we can still do b divided by 2 and square it. So in this case, we're doing negative 2 divided by 2, which is negative 1, and squaring that, and 1 would be inside the blank there. So let's look at number 3. We notice that there's an a value. That's not okay, so we have to factor it out. We're going to get x squared minus 6x then. And then we are going to once again do b divided by 2. So in this case, it's negative 6 divided by 2. That's negative 3. And then when we square it, the value that goes in the blank is 9. So I'd like you to go ahead and try 4 and 5 using the same thing. Factor out your a, do b divided by 2 and square it and put it in the blank, and then come back here to check your answers. So go ahead and pause the video and try it, and then come back. So number 4, we factored out a 4, and then we had c as 4 when we did b over 2 squared. Number 5, your a value is 2, that's out in front, and then you get 16 in there. So we found our new c value, and now we're going to rewrite this as a perfect square. So you're just going to recopy your a value from before, and then we're going to write this just like we did in our warm-up. Whenever we did b divided by 2, that number was the number that went inside the perfect square binomial. So it's x plus 2 quantity squared. For number 5, we leave the 2 out in front, and this is x minus 4 being squared. So that is one way to deal with your a value, and then keep going with factoring or completing the square like normal. So when we look at these problems here, it is going to be a very small extension from our warm-up to actually solve these ones with completing the square. So problem number 6, our problem is this 8 in front. If that 8 weren't there, we could actually factor or complete the square just like we did on our warm-up. So if you have a number in front of your x squared, all we're going to do is we're going to divide everything by that a value. Because we're dividing it on both sides, we're keeping our equation balanced. So we get x squared minus 2x equals 2. Now that this a value is gone, this is exactly what we did yesterday. So we can just pick up from here where we went ahead and we write plus blank on both sides. We're going to do b divided by 2 squared to figure out what goes on the blank. And then we're going to write it in our factored form as whatever your b divided by 2 was. And on the right-hand side, you're going to simplify that together. At which point we can square root both sides. Now this is one where we're square rooting, so we put plus or minus, but we actually don't know the square root of 3. So we're just going to write it as the square root of 3. To get x by itself, now all I have to do is add 1 to the other side, and I can't combine it, so I'm done. I should also mention here that you can't simplify the square root of 3, which is another reason why it's done. It doesn't combine and it doesn't simplify. So let's go ahead and take a look at number 7. We're going to start off by trying to get it in the right form. We're going to move the c value over to the other side to get 4x squared minus 8x equals 12. We're going to note that we have an a value, and that's a problem, so we're going to divide both sides of the equation by that a value. We get x squared minus 2x, and now we can go ahead and write plus blank equals, we're dividing over there on the other side as well and getting 3 plus blank. We do b divided by 2 squared, and the left side factors to x minus 1 squared, whereas the right-hand side combines to 4. So we're going to square root both sides. We get x minus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 4 is nice. In this case, it's 2. We're going to add the 1 to the other side to get 1 plus or minus 2, which means our solutions are going to be 1 plus 2 and 1 minus 2. So x equals 3 and x equals negative 1. So we have 2 more examples here. If you feel ready, you can go ahead and just pause the video and do them yourself, and then just kind of fast forward and see if you have the answers. Otherwise, I'm going to walk through these ones as well. I'm going to move the c to the other side. I notice that there's an a value, so I'm going to divide both sides by whatever your a value is. I'm going to leave spaces to complete the square. Then we do b divided by 2 and square it to get 16 in each of those blanks. And now the left-hand side is a perfect square. It is x plus 4 squared. And the right-hand side is 20. We square root both sides, and the left side is the x plus 4. The right-hand side we write plus or minus, but 20 now can be broken up. So this is the day where we're now looking for those number pairs. If you have a pair of numbers, they come out in front. Any ones that don't have a pair stay inside the radical. And we want to subtract 4 to the other side, but these are not like terms, so we just put the negative 4 in front, plus or minus 2 root 5. Lastly, for number 9, we're going to subtract 520 from both sides. We get 2x squared plus 64x equals negative 520. We divide both sides by your a value to get x squared plus 32x equals negative 260. We're going to write plus blank. And then we are going to do b divided by 2 squared to figure out that 256 goes in the blank. So the left side is x plus 16 squared, and the right-hand side is -4, which gives us a problem. So when we go to square root both sides here, we cannot have a square root of a negative answer or of a negative number. So this is no solution. When you see that negative under the radical, you can just stop and say no solution. So thank you very much for listening. I hope this helped.